Stop. Do not skip this. Do not speed this up. Do not assume this is just another video. Right now, your life is already moving in a direction you did not consciously choose. And if you keep moving the same way after this moment, the outcome is already decided. Most people never realize when their future gets locked in. It doesn't happen during big events. It happens quietly, when awareness shows up and is ignored. This message is not motivation. It is not advice. It is a warning. Quantum physics confirms something most people are never told. Once you become aware of a pattern, repeating it is no longer accidental. It becomes a choice. And choices collapse futures. If you are watching this, you are standing at a selection point. What you do after this video will decide which version of your life becomes real and which one disappears. So before you watch anything else, before you scroll, before you return to routine, listen, because this is the moment that decides what happens next. 1. You are not in one life, you are in many. Most people believe they are living a single life, moving forward on a straight line from past to future. That belief alone already limits them. Quantum physics quietly exposes something far more unsettling. Reality does not exist as one fixed path. It exists as a field of possibilities. At every moment, countless versions of your future are available, alive, and mathematically real. You are not waiting for your future. You are standing inside a selection system. Every choice you make is not just a decision. It is a tuning mechanism. It locks you into one timeline, while all others fade into the background. This is why two people can start in the same place, with the same resources, and end up in completely different lives. They did not work harder. They tuned differently. Right now, there is a version of you living a life you secretly desire. There is also a version of you repeating the same struggle year after year. Both exist. The only difference between them is not luck, intelligence, or opportunity. The difference is the state of consciousness they occupy. Quantum theory shows that before observation, particles exist in superposition, multiple states at once. Life works the same way. Your future remains undefined until you consistently observe yourself as a specific identity. The moment you identify as limited, delayed, or powerless, the field collapses into that version, not because you deserve it, but because you selected it. This is where free mind must be brutally honest. You are not trapped by circumstances. You are trapped by familiar identity. Most people unconsciously choose the same timeline every day because it feels safe. It is known, even pain can feel safer than uncertainty. So they wake up, think the same thoughts, react the same way, expect the same outcomes, and then wonder why nothing changes. The universe is not punishing them. It is responding with precision. If you want a different future, you cannot wait for motivation. Motivation is emotional noise. You must begin to observe yourself differently before the external world gives you permission. That is how quantum shifts work. Reality follows identity, not the other way around. This lesson is uncomfortable because it removes excuses. It means no one is holding you back. It means no moment is neutral. Every thought, every assumption, every reaction is a vote for the timeline you will wake up in tomorrow. And here is the most important part, most people never hear. Once you become aware of this, you are no longer innocent. You cannot unsee the mechanism. You cannot pretend you are powerless. From this point forward, repetition becomes a choice. Staying stuck becomes a decision. And that awareness alone has already started collapsing a different future into place. This is why you were meant to hear this first. 2. Consciousness comes before matter. Most people believe the world shapes their mind. Quantum physics reveals the opposite. Mind shapes the world. Before anything becomes physical, measurable, or visible, it exists as information, possibility, probability. Matter is not solid at its core. It is potential waiting for instruction, and the instruction comes from conscious observation. Experiments in quantum mechanics show that particles behave one way when unobserved and a completely different way when observed. This is not metaphor. This is measurement. The act of observation collapses possibility into reality. Now understand what this means for your life. Your awareness is not passive. It is not a background process. It is an active force. What you consistently observe as true becomes structurally real in your experience. Not instantly, but inevitably. This is why two people can experience the same event and walk away with different outcomes. One sees limitation, the other sees information. One reinforces the past, the other creates a future. The external event was identical. The observer was not. Free mind truth. The universe does not respond to what you want. It responds to what you assume is already happening. Most people, unknowingly, live in reaction mode. They wait for external proof before changing their internal state. But by the time proof arrives, the outcome has already been decided. The quantum field responded earlier, at the level of assumption. This is why affirmations fail for many. Saying words without shifting awareness does nothing. Consciousness is not language. It is identity and expectation. If you identify as someone waiting, the world keeps you waiting. If you identify as someone lacking, the world confirms lack. If you identify as someone aligned, opportunities reorganize, not because the universe is emotional, because it is mathematical. Here is the uncomfortable part. Your thoughts are not private. They are signals. Every repeated belief sends a consistent instruction to reality. This is the framework I accept, and reality obeys with frightening accuracy. Free mind warning: if you do not deliberately choose your state of consciousness, your environment will choose it for you. News, people, fear, routines, all of them program observation patterns, and whatever programs your observation programs your future. This lesson is not about positivity, it is about responsibility. Once you understand that consciousness comes before matter, you can no longer blame timing, people, or circumstances. You must look at the one place change actually begins, the level at which you are observing your life. Shift the observer, and the observed cannot remain the same. That is not motivation. That is quantum law. 3. Delay is not punishment, it is calibration. One of the most destructive beliefs people carry is that delay means failure, that if something is taking too long, something must be wrong. This belief alone has pushed countless people into panic, force, and premature action, all of which collapse the wrong outcomes. Quantum systems do not move in straight lines. They stabilize. Before a particle locks into a measurable state, it fluctuates. Before coherence forms, there is instability. Before a leap, there is resistance. Delay is not a mistake in the system. It is a necessary phase of alignment. Your life follows the same pattern. When something is meant to change at a deeper level, the system slows down, not to stop you, but to recalibrate you. Speed without alignment creates chaos. Alignment without speed creates inevitability. Free mind truth. The universe does not rush what must hold. Most people sabotage themselves during calibration. They interpret stillness as rejection. They interpret silence as abandonment. So they force decisions, chase outcomes, and attach themselves to timelines that were never meant to last. This is why some doors feel heavy. This is why progress sometimes pauses without explanation. This is why nothing seems to move right before everything changes. Delay is the universe checking coherence. Are your thoughts stable? Is your intention clean? Is your identity ready to sustain what you are asking for? If not, the system holds. This is not cruelty. It is precision. People who understand this stop begging the universe for speed. They use the delay to refine perception, detach from urgency, and stabilize their internal state. And when the shift comes, it comes fast, because resistance has already been resolved internally. Here is the part most people never hear. If something is truly aligned, delay will not break it. Impatience will. If you are in a season where nothing is happening, that does not mean nothing is working. It means the adjustment is internal, not visible, and internal shifts always precede external movement. Free mind reminder: silence is not emptiness. It is preparation. The moment you stop fighting the pause, the system finishes calibrating. And when it does, reality moves with a speed that feels sudden, but was years in the making. Do not rush this phase. It is the last thing standing between repetition and precision. 4. The identity you protect is the prison. There is a version of you that feels familiar, predictable, recognizable. This version has a name, a story, a past, and a set of limits you quietly defend. You call it who I am. You protect it. You justify it. You explain it to others. And without realizing it, you build your entire life around maintaining it. Quantum physics exposes a brutal truth. What you identify with determines what reality is allowed to give you. Reality does not respond to what you want. It responds to who you believe yourself to be. Most people never escape because they are loyal to an identity that was created for survival, not expansion. It was built in response to pain, fear, rejection, or lack. At one point, that identity protected you. It kept you safe. It helped you adapt. But now it is outdated. Free mind truth. The universe cannot upgrade a version of you that refuses to dissolve. Every major shift in reality requires identity death, not metaphorical change. Actual psychological release. The old labels must lose authority. The old self-image must collapse. And this is where most people stop. They want transformation without disintegration. They want a new life while keeping the same story. But quantum shifts do not negotiate. If you see yourself as someone who struggles, struggle becomes stable. If you see yourself as someone unlucky, randomness becomes biased against you. If you see yourself as someone waiting, life keeps you in delay. Not because reality is cruel, but because reality is consistent. The identity you repeat internally becomes the boundary of your experience. Here is the uncomfortable part. You protect your identity because it gives you certainty, even when it hurts, even when it limits you, even when it keeps you small. Certainty feels safer than the unknown, so people cling to labels like "this is just how I am," without realizing that sentence locks them into a closed loop. Free mind warning: comfort with identity is the enemy of expansion. Quantum systems evolve by breaking symmetry. They leave old structures behind. They do not apologize. They do not explain. They reorganize. So must you. This is why growth feels terrifying. You are not afraid of failure. You are afraid of not recognizing yourself afterward. You are afraid that the old you will disappear, because it must. And here is the truth most people never hear. Nothing real is lost in identity death. Only limitation dissolves. The intelligence, depth, and essence that matter do not disappear. They become free. What dissolves is the false boundary you mistook for yourself. The moment you stop defending who you were, reality gains permission to introduce who you are becoming. But this requires courage most people never practice: the courage to be undefined. No labels, no explanations, no rehearsed story, just presence. This is where quantum leaps happen. Not when you add something new, but when you remove the structure that was never meant to follow you. Free mind reminder: the universe does not ask who you were. It responds to who you are willing to release. If you feel unsettled listening to this, that is not fear. That is the old identity realizing its authority is ending. and that is exactly how you know the prison door is opening. 5. Fear is a signal, not a stop sign. Fear has been misunderstood your entire life. You were taught that fear means danger, that it is a warning to stop, to retreat, to wait until certainty appears. But quantum physics reveals something far more unsettling. Fear often appears not when something is wrong, but when something is about to change. Fear is not the enemy. It is information. In quantum systems, instability arises right before a state transition. Fluctuation increases before coherence forms. Resistance intensifies before a system reorganizes. Fear follows the same pattern. It is the nervous system reacting to identity expansion, not external threat. Free mind truth. Fear does not mean you are moving in the wrong direction. It means the old structure is losing control. Most people never make the leap because they wait for fear to disappear. But fear does not disappear before transformation. It dissolves after alignment is proven through action. This is why courage feels unnatural. You are not trained for expansion. You are trained for safety. Fear appears when the familiar identity senses extinction. The mind interprets this as danger because it equates identity loss with survival risk. But the body is not in danger. The ego is, and the ego resists replacement. Here is the pattern that traps most people. They feel fear. They pause. They overthink. They retreat. And the moment they retreat, the fear quiets. Not because safety was restored, but because growth was cancelled. The system stabilized back into the old pattern, and the person mistakes relief for wisdom. Free mind warning, relief after retreat is not safety. It is stagnation. Fear fades when you abandon expansion. It intensifies when you approach it. This is why opportunity feels heavy. This is why potential feels threatening. This is why stepping into alignment triggers doubt, anxiety, and internal resistance. The fear is not protecting you from failure. It is protecting the old timeline from collapse. People who understand this stop asking, "How do I get rid of fear?" They ask a different question: what is fear trying to keep intact? The answer is always the same. The old identity, the old routine, the old limits. Fear guards the gate of transformation, not to stop you, but to test coherence. Will you move despite uncertainty? Will you act without full proof? Will you trust alignment over comfort? Quantum systems respond to decision under uncertainty. That is when probability collapses. This is why hesitation delays outcomes, not because you are wrong, but because the system waits for commitment. Partial intention produces partial reality. Here is the truth. Most people never integrate. Fear does not shrink when you think your way through it. It shrinks when you move through it. The moment you act from alignment, the nervous system recalibrates. Reality reorganizes. The unknown becomes familiar, and fear dissolves. Not because it was defeated, but because it was completed. Free mind reminder: every future you want sits on the other side of a feeling you have been avoiding. Fear marks the edge of your current identity. Step past it, and the boundary collapses. Do not confuse fear with danger. Confuse it with permission. The signal is clear. Move. 6. The universe responds to certainty, not hope. Hope feels comforting, but it is one of the weakest signals you can send into reality. Hope contains doubt. It assumes distance between you and the outcome. It quietly says, "This might happen if things go right." The quantum field does not organize around maybe. It organizes around coherence. Certainty is not loud. It does not beg. It does not rush. Certainty is stable. Quantum systems collapse into form when information becomes consistent, when signals stop fluctuating, when probability is no longer pulled in multiple directions. Your inner state works the same way. When your thoughts, expectations, and identity align, reality has no ambiguity left to respond to. Free mind truth. The universe does not reward desire. It responds to assumed inevitability. Most people confuse certainty with arrogance or fantasy. They think it means pretending, forcing belief, or ignoring reality. That misunderstanding keeps them oscillating between hope and fear, a state of constant interference. And interference delays manifestation. Certainty is not pretending something exists. It is removing internal contradiction. When you want something but doubt it, you send two instructions at once. One says, "Come closer." The other says, "Stay away." The field responds by doing nothing. This is why desperation repels outcomes. Desperation signals instability. It says, "I do not trust the process. I do not trust myself. I do not trust alignment." And the universe mirrors that distrust by withholding resolution. Free mind warning. Urgency is not power. Neutral confidence is. Look at how things appear when they are truly aligned. There is no emotional drama, no obsession, no constant checking for signs. There is calm expectation, the same way you expect the sun to rise without anxiety. That state collapses reality faster than effort ever could. Here is where most people break coherence. They want proof before they stabilize internally. But proof only arrives after stabilization. This is the paradox, and only those willing to cross it experience quantum shifts. Certainty is built through identity, not emotion. It is not a feeling. It is a position, a stance, a settled internal posture that says, "This is resolved." And once that posture becomes consistent, external reality reorganizes to match it. Free mind truth. Reality chases consistency. If you waver, it waits. If you oscillate, it mirrors. If you stabilize, it moves. This is why discipline matters more than motivation. Motivation fluctuates. Discipline builds identity, and identity creates certainty. Certainty does not announce itself. It does not explain. It does not convince others. It simply acts as if the outcome is already integrated. And when that happens, the struggle disappears. You stop asking when. You stop asking how. You stop asking who will help. Because the system has already accepted your signal. Here is the deeper layer most people never reach. Certainty requires surrender, not control. Control implies fear of loss. Certainty implies trust in structure. When you stop micromanaging outcomes, you allow larger intelligence to operate, and that intelligence moves faster than force ever could. Free mind reminder, forcing collapses small outcomes. Certainty collapses large ones. This is why some people receive what they want suddenly, without visible effort. It is not luck. It is not privilege. It is internal coherence, sustained long enough for reality to respond. Hope waits. Certainty expects. And expectation is the strongest instruction you can give to the universe. When you stop hoping and start knowing, the waiting ends. 7. Your environment is a feedback loop. Most people think their environment is the problem. The job, the people, the money, the chaos, the resistance. They believe life is happening to them. But quantum physics quietly reveals something far more unsettling. Your environment is responding to you. Reality is not random. It is reflective. Every system returns feedback based on the signal it receives. The quantum field does the same. It mirrors internal states outward in structured, repeatable patterns. What surrounds you is not coincidence. It is confirmation. Free mind truth. Your environment is not your enemy. It is your report card. Look carefully at your life. The patterns are consistent. The same conflicts repeat. The same limitations appear in different forms. The same type of people enter and exit. This is not bad luck. It is resonance. Quantum systems organize around frequency. Whatever frequency you emit becomes the organizing principle of your reality. Your environment is simply the echo. This is why changing external conditions without internal shift fails. You can change locations, relationships, jobs, even countries, and still recreate the same experience. The field is not following the place. It is following you. Free mind warning. Escape without awareness recreates the same cage. Most people attempt surface-level change. They adjust behavior but keep assumptions. They modify actions but protect identity. And the feedback loop continues uninterrupted. The loop only breaks when the internal signal changes. Here is where accountability becomes uncomfortable. If you keep encountering disrespect, examine the boundaries you tolerate. If you keep experiencing instability, examine the identity you reinforce. If you keep facing delay, examine the expectations you quietly accept. This is not blame. It is power. Blame keeps you trapped. Responsibility gives you leverage. Quantum feedback loops exist to teach coherence. They repeat until alignment is achieved. The universe does not punish. It repeats. Free mind truth. Repetition is a request for awareness. Once you see the loop, you cannot unsee it. And once you see it, you cannot fix it externally. You must address the internal assumption that keeps recreating it. This is why growth feels personal. Reality is responding personally, not emotionally, structurally. Your habits, routines, and emotional defaults are instructions. They tell the system what to stabilize around, and the system responds by building an environment that reinforces those instructions. This is why some people seem stuck, no matter how hard they try. Effort without alignment feeds the loop faster. They push, the loop resists. They push harder, the loop strengthens. Free mind reminder, force strengthens resistance. Awareness dissolves it. When you change the signal, the loop collapses, not slowly, automatically. The environment has no choice but to reorganize because it is not the source. It is the reflection. This is where power returns. You stop reacting. You stop complaining. You stop negotiating with symptoms. You work at the source. Once the internal shift stabilizes, external change becomes inevitable. People move away. Opportunities appear. Circumstances rearrange. Not because you demanded it, but because the feedback loop updated. This is why silence, solitude, and observation matter. They interrupt the loop. They allow you to see the pattern without reinforcing it. Free mind truth. Awareness is the exit. The moment you stop feeding the loop unconsciously, it loses energy. And when it loses energy, it collapses. Your environment will not change because you wish it to. It will change because you did. And once you understand this, nothing external can trap you again. 8. Silence is a weapon. Most people fear silence because silence removes distraction. And without distraction, truth becomes impossible to avoid. This is why modern life is loud. Noise keeps people reactive. Silence makes them sovereign. Quantum systems reveal that power concentrates when interference stops. When noise is reduced, coherence increases. The same applies to human consciousness. Silence is not emptiness. It is compression. Free mind truth. Silence is not weakness. It is preparation. When you explain yourself, you leak energy. When you defend your choices, you dilute authority. When you announce plans, you invite interference. Every unnecessary word introduces instability into your field. The universe responds most cleanly to those who move quietly. This is why the most powerful shifts in nature are silent. Seeds break underground. Ice forms without sound. Planets move without announcement. Noise is not a requirement for transformation. Stillness is. Most people talk because they want validation. They want reassurance that they are seen, approved, supported. But approval is external energy, and external energy is unstable. Silence returns energy to its source. Free mind warning. The more you explain, the more you invite opposition. Silence creates mystery. Mystery preserves power. When people cannot predict you, they cannot interfere. When they cannot interfere, your alignment stabilizes. This is not about arrogance. It is about containment. Quantum fields stabilize when information is coherent and minimal. Too many inputs create decoherence. Your life works the same way. Opinions, advice, reactions, all of them introduce noise. Silence filters the signal. This is why periods of quiet often precede major breakthroughs. The system is reorganizing. Information is consolidating. Energy is being conserved for a release that cannot happen under constant exposure. Free mind truth, speaking prematurely, collapses incomplete outcomes. Silence allows reality to finish forming. Here is the uncomfortable truth. People who move in silence are often misunderstood. They are seen as distant, cold, or withdrawn. But what is actually happening is internal alignment. The noise has been removed. The signal is strengthening. Those who understand this stop trying to be understood. They focus on being coherent. Silence is not passive. It is active restraint. It is choosing not to react, not to explain, not to announce. And that restraint creates a gravitational pull. People feel it. Opportunities respond to it. Reality reorganizes around it. Free mind reminder, what is meant for you does not require explanation. When you are aligned, words become unnecessary. Presence speaks louder than performance. This is why silence often feels uncomfortable at first. It removes the emotional feedback loop. It forces you to sit with uncertainty without seeking reassurance. But that discomfort is exactly what strengthens authority. Silence teaches patience. Patience teaches stability. Stability collapses outcomes. This is why silence feels powerful after practice. You stop leaking energy. You stop scattering focus. You stop reacting to every stimulus. And when the time comes to speak or act, the impact is multiplied. Free mind truth. Silence sharpens force. Use it deliberately. Speak when aligned. Move when ready. Remain silent while the system reorganizes. Those who know how to be silent are never rushed and never ignored. 9. You are being watched by the field. Most people live as if no one is paying attention. They believe their thoughts disappear. Their habits reset each day, and their inconsistencies go unnoticed. Quantum physics reveals the opposite. The field remembers. Reality is not blind. It is responsive. The quantum field does not judge intention once. It tracks patterns. It responds to what is repeated, not what is promised. What you do occasionally has no power. What you do consistently becomes law. Free mind truth. The universe does not respond to your best days. It responds to your average state. Every thought you repeat strengthens a signal. Every habit you maintain confirms an identity. Every excuse you normalize becomes instruction. The field listens quietly and builds reality around what you prove, not what you hope. This is why people feel stuck even when they try hard. Trying is episodic. Identity is constant. You cannot think one way and live another and expect coherence. The system detects contradiction instantly, and when contradiction exists, outcomes stall, not as punishment, as correction. The field rewards alignment. Alignment means your inner assumptions, daily behavior, and self-image point in the same direction. When they do not, progress fractures. Free mind warning. Inconsistency is the most expensive habit you can have. People sabotage themselves not through big failures, but through small daily betrayals, saying one thing and doing another. wanting growth but feeding distraction, asking for clarity but avoiding discipline. And the field responds accurately. It does not respond to motivation speeches you give yourself at night. It responds to how you live the next morning. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Your routines are louder than your desires. If you wake up reactive, the field stabilizes reaction. If you delay action, the field stabilizes delay. If you tolerate chaos, the field multiplies it. Not emotionally, mechanically. Quantum systems reinforce whatever state is most frequently occupied. The system assumes that state is preferred, and it optimizes around it. This is why change feels difficult at first. You are asking the field to reorganize against established data, and the field waits to see if the signal persists. Most people quit here. They change briefly, then revert, and the field notes the inconsistency and restores the old structure. Free mind reminder: the field does not test you, it verifies you. Consistency is not about perfection. It is about directional loyalty, showing up aligned even when emotion fluctuates, acting from identity even when motivation is absent. This is why discipline is sacred. Discipline proves seriousness. When the field detects seriousness, it accelerates. Opportunities appear. Resistance weakens. Paths open that were previously invisible. Not because the universe suddenly likes you, because your signal stabilized enough to be trusted. Free mind truth. Trust is built through repetition. This lesson removes fantasy. It replaces it with leverage. If you want a different life, you do not need dramatic change. You need faithful repetition of a new signal. Small, boring, daily, unnegotiable. The field is watching, not to judge, but to respond. What it sees today is what it will build tomorrow. And once you understand this, excuses lose their power, because you realize every small choice is being recorded and reflected back as reality. 10. Some people cannot follow you. One of the hardest truths to accept is that not everyone who walks with you is meant to continue with you. People assume separation is a failure of loyalty, love, or effort. Quantum reality reveals something colder, but clearer. Not all frequencies can coexist. This is not personal. It is structural. Quantum systems only remain stable when their components resonate. When frequencies diverge, coherence breaks. The system must reorganize. Human relationships follow the same law. When your internal state changes, the relationships that once felt natural may begin to feel heavy, tense, or misaligned. Free mind truth. Separation is not betrayal, it is calibration. Most people sabotage their evolution by trying to carry everyone with them. They explain themselves, justify their growth, and slow their movement to accommodate others. But this creates internal conflict, and conflict fractures coherence. The universe does not punish this. It delays progress until the contradiction is resolved. This is why some relationships become confusing during growth. Nothing is wrong, yet nothing flows. Communication feels strained, support feels conditional. Energy drains instead of multiplies. The signal has changed. Here is the part most people resist. Letting go is not rejection. It is respect for differing paths. Some people are aligned with the version of you that is ending. Others are aligned with the version you are becoming. Trying to merge both worlds collapses. Both. Free mind warning: attachment to familiarity is the most common form of self-sabotage. People fear separation because they associate it with loss. But quantum alignment teaches that what leaves creates space, and space is required for expansion. You cannot receive what is meant for your next phase while holding what belongs to your last one. This does not mean cutting people off aggressively. It means releasing expectation, allowing distance without drama, letting the system rebalance naturally. Those who are aligned will remain without effort. Those who are not will drift without conflict. This is not cruelty, it is coherence. Here is the deeper truth. Some people cannot follow you because your growth confronts their stagnation. Your clarity reflects their avoidance. Your movement threatens their comfort. And rather than evolve, they resist. Free mind reminder: resistance from others is not a sign you are wrong. It is a sign you are changing the signal. Trying to convince them keeps you anchored. Trying to wait for them delays your timeline. Trying to save them fragments your energy. Growth is not democratic, it is individual. Quantum shifts require solitude at the threshold, not isolation forever, but separation during transition. This is where identity stabilizes. This is where the new frequency locks in. Once stabilized, new relationships form effortlessly. Support appears naturally. Resonance replaces explanation. Free mind truth. Aligned people do not require convincing. If someone must be persuaded to support your evolution, they are not meant to participate in it. This lesson is not about abandoning others. It is about honoring the structure of reality. You are not meant to carry incompatible frequencies. You are meant to move cleanly, release without resentment, detach without drama, continue without guilt. Those meant for your next life will meet you there, and those who are not were never meant to hold you back. This is not loss. This is alignment. 11. Time is folding, not passing. Most people believe time is running out. They feel late, behind, pressured. They wake up with a quiet panic that something important is slipping away. This belief shapes their entire life. It makes them rush decisions, cling to certainty, and fear stillness. Quantum physics reveals something radically different. Time is not moving forward the way you think it is. Time does not flow like a river. It behaves more like a field, flexible, responsive, non-linear. Moments stretch or compress, depending on awareness. When consciousness expands, time opens. When consciousness contracts, time feels scarce. Free mind truth. Time does not control you. Your state controls time. This is why 1 hour can feel endless in anxiety and disappear in deep focus. This is why certain seasons of life feel stagnant, while others feel accelerated. Nothing external changed. Your relationship to time did. Most people experience time as pressure because they are misaligned. They are trying to force outcomes before identity has stabilized, and pressure always creates distortion. Free mind warning. Urgency is often a signal of internal incoherence, not destiny. When you are aligned, time feels spacious. Decisions feel calm. Actions feel deliberate. There is no frantic movement, no chasing. You act when the moment opens, and when it opens, everything moves at once. Quantum systems do not waste energy. They wait until conditions are precise, then they reorganize instantly. Human life follows the same law. This is why nothing seems to happen for long periods, and then suddenly, everything changes. People call it luck. They call it timing. They call it coincidence. It is none of those. It is convergence. Multiple conditions aligning across internal and external states until movement becomes inevitable, until time itself seems to bend around the moment. Free mind truth. Breakthroughs feel sudden because preparation is invisible. Here is where people sabotage themselves. They panic during the waiting phase. They interpret silence as failure. They try to speed up what cannot be rushed, and in doing so, they disrupt alignment and reset the cycle. This is why patience is misunderstood. Patience is not passive. It is precision without panic. When you stop fighting time, you start cooperating with it. This is the shift few people make. They stop asking, "Why is this taking so long?" and start asking, "What is still stabilizing?" Time responds to awareness. When awareness deepens, time reorganizes. Opportunities appear at the exact moment capacity matches requirement. Free mind reminder, Premature success collapses under its own weight. If something arrives before you are coherent, it destabilizes you. That is why delay is protection. It is not withholding, it is sequencing. Here is the deeper truth that changes everything. The future you are moving toward is not ahead of you. It already exists. You are not traveling to it, you are tuning into it. Different futures exist at different frequencies. Time is simply the interface through which you access them. When your internal state matches a future, time folds and that future becomes present. This is why forcing timelines never works. You cannot access a future your identity does not match, and you cannot miss a future you are aligned with. Free mind truth. What is meant for you does not require urgency, it requires readiness. Once you understand this, fear of time disappears. You stop racing, you stop comparing, you stop measuring yourself against others. You realize everyone is accessing different timelines based on different states of awareness. And suddenly, you feel calm. Not because you have answers, but because you understand the mechanism. Time is not running out. It is reorganizing. And the moment you stop resisting it, it begins working with you. This is the moment when patience stops feeling like waiting and starts feeling like power. 12. This is the moment of selection. There is a moment in every life that looks ordinary on the outside, but is decisive beneath the surface. Nothing dramatic happens. No announcement. No sign in the sky. Just a quiet internal realization that something has shifted and cannot be reversed. This is that moment. Quantum physics teaches that systems remain flexible until a measurement forces a collapse. Before that point, everything exists as possibility. After it, only one outcome remains accessible. Human lives work the same way. For most people, this moment passes unnoticed. They feel it briefly, a sense of recognition, a pull toward awareness, and then they return to routine. They distract themselves. They rationalize, they postpone, and the system collapses back into the familiar timeline. Free mind truth awareness without decision changes nothing. But when awareness is followed by commitment, reality locks in. This lesson exists for one reason only, to make you conscious of the choice point you are standing in. Not tomorrow, not next year. Now, after everything you have heard, neutrality is no longer possible. You cannot unknow the mechanics. You cannot pretend the system is random. You cannot return to innocence. From this point forward, repetition becomes consent. Every thought you repeat after this moment is a decision. Every habit you maintain is a confirmation. Every excuse you accept is an instruction. This is not pressure, it is clarity. Free mind warning. Once you see the structure, staying the same is no longer accidental. Many people want transformation without consequence. They want insight without responsibility. They want to feel awakened, but live unchanged. Quantum reality does not allow this contradiction to persist for long. Either awareness integrates into identity, or it fades. This is why people feel discomfort after moments of truth. Not because something is wrong, but because the system is demanding resolution. The old timeline is no longer stable, but the new one has not yet been claimed. This is the gap, and what you do in this gap decides everything. Free mind truth. Hesitation here defaults you back to the past. Not because the universe punishes you, but because inertia always favors the familiar. To move forward now does not require dramatic action. It requires embodiment, a quiet internal decision to live from alignment rather than reaction, to stop negotiating with fear, to stop postponing coherence. The system is not asking you to be perfect. It is asking you to be consistent. Here is the final truth most people never hear. The future you step into after this moment will feel normal, not magical. Not explosive, just stable, clear, inevitable. because quantum shifts do not feel like miracles from the inside. They feel like recognition. You will not feel like someone new. You will feel like someone returned. This is why the choice is subtle and why it is so powerful. You either return to unconscious repetition or commit to conscious creation. Both paths are valid. Both have consequences. The universe will respond immediately, not emotionally, but structurally, to whichever path you choose. Free mind reminder: nothing changes all at once. Everything changes from this point on. If you walk away and live as before, the system closes quietly. If you integrate this awareness, the system opens gradually, but permanently. This is not motivation. This is not inspiration. This is a selection event, and now that you are aware of it, the decision has already begun forming. What you do next will tell the universe who you are choosing to be. If something inside you feels quiet right now, do not ignore it. That silence is not confusion. It is recognition. This was not meant to entertain you. It was meant to interrupt you, to stop the automatic version of your life before it continues another day without consent. From this point forward, nothing is neutral. If you return to old habits, you do so knowingly. If you delay change, you do so deliberately. If you move forward, you do so with awareness, and the universe will respond accordingly. Do not rush to explain this video. Do not look for approval. Do not wait for permission. Just watch what happens when your actions start matching what you now understand. The future does not arrive loudly. It forms quietly around those who choose consciously. This was your moment of clarity. What follows is your responsibility. Free mind out.